Welcome back. We're learning new troubling details about Trayvon Martin's shooter, a neighborhood watch volunteer self-appointed named George Zimmerman. He seemed obsessed with law enforcement, but he had a checkered past of his own. To learn more, let me bring in Jeff Weiner, reporter of the Orlando Sentinel. He's writing about George Zimmerman today, and Joe Madison, nationally syndicated host of Mornings with Madison on Sirius XM Radio. Yeah. He'll be rallying with us tomorrow night in Sanford, Florida. Thanks to both of you for your time.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks for having us.
Jeff, as we learn more about him, is there a sense that George Zimmerman thought he was above the law, or maybe part of the law, and we were told that he himself was clean, squeaky clean, yet we find out that you've uncovered he had several encounters with the law?
He did. He had applied to be part of a citizens academy that was run by the sheriff's office. It's a non-law enforcement role that is meant to educate the public, but he did express that he wanted to be a law enforcement officer. He was arrested in 2005, accused essentially of interfering with and shoving a drug agent who was arresting a friend of his outside a bar near the University of Central Florida. He has had some reports of domestic violence in his past that did not involve arrests, involving an ex-fiancée of his who accused him of attacking her back in 2005. And he also, there have been at least 2 occasions where he has pursued someone who he believed to be committing a crime. In one example, in 2003, he followed someone out of an Albertsons parking lot who he had seen shoplifting a television. He reported the incident to the sheriff's office in Seminole County and followed the person until a deputy could arrive to arrest that person. The following year, he did the same with someone who he said had spit on his car. That person was ultimately not arrested.
So he seemed to be overly aggressive? Is that the picture?
He seemed to be someone who very much aspired to be law enforcement or to act as law enforcement, and someone who, on occasion, was willing to take action, to fulfill that aspiration.
But Joe, taking action, being overzealous against people you think are committing crime is one thing. Pushing a law enforcement officer, assaulting a law enforcement officer, being arrested for that, and being accused of domestic violence and assaulting your girlfriend, that really has nothing to do with pursuing some justice or being overzealous. So we get the picture that this guy had violent tendencies, at least according to accusations and an arrest. Now, if you're the police and you're looking at this and you're looking at a kid who never had any altercations with the law, how come every time they had a close call, they sided with Zimmerman, the one that has the trouble?
Yeah, well, I'll just call it what it is. Nobody wants to say it, but well, we do want to say it. It's just pure racism. Let's just call it exactly what it is. The fact that they would even do a blood test on the corpse of Trayvon and not the blood test on the person who now, by the way, has a gun. Not only does he still have his permit, but remember, he still has his gun.
Yeah, he has his gun. Well,
now,
let me, because I'm short on time, but I want to ask you this specifically because something really bothers me. The Miami Herald today quotes Sanford Police Chief Bill Lee on the state of the investigation. I want to show you this because you've got to answer this for me. All Quote, right. We are taking a beating over this. This is the police chief in Sanford. This is very unsettling. I'm sure if George Zimmerman had the opportunity to relive Sunday, February 26th, he'd probably do things differently. I'm sure Trayvon would too. Well, first of all, how does he know the character of George Zimmerman, what he would do differently? And what did Trayvon do wrong that Trayvon would do differently? Trayvon went and bought some Skittles and an iced tea and walked home. What would he have done differently?
Look, man. When I was 17 years old, I was planning for my prom. When I was 17 years old, I had a girlfriend. When I was 17 years old, I was planning to go to college and play football. When I was 17 years old, I was planning to graduate from high school. you know, this chief of police has some nerve identifying more with the assailant than he does with this dead young kid who won't go to high school, who won't go to college, who won't go to a senior prom, who won't have a girlfriend, who won't have a life, who is dead. He ought to be identifying with the parents you interviewed today. This shows you just how, I mean, this chief of police ought to resign now. And tomorrow evening when we're there, that's exactly what I'm asking for. He just ought to step down, and the feds ought to come in.
I think that you and others have said that. I think that may be too kind. I think that they need to be investigated. Resignation may be the least some of them should do.
Oh, I
some
agree
of them
with
may
that.
face more serious problems if this investigation goes where I think it possibly can go.
Yeah.
Joe Madison, Jeff Weiner, thanks for your time tonight. Still ahead, some powerful insight about growing up like Trayvon, young and black in America. Writer Jonathan Capehart wrote an emotional piece about his own experience and took us on a personal journey back to his hometown. You won't want to miss this.